Thank you.
And you're welcome.
Welcome everyone to our biweekly Cohort 1 meeting. I want to share that we presented the presentation that you're going to see. We presented that to Cohort 2 last week, and it was met with such great enthusiasm, and we got lots of great feedback that we thought, well, you know what, this would probably be a great topic for Cohort 1 as well. So I am going to share my screen. There. Can everyone see my screen? Wonderful. So today we are going to share some information about how to engage or start collaborations with your community partners that are in what we call a mixed delivery system. And we have some guests here today from all of our partnerships with it at the state level as well. You all know me. I'm Dr. Sandy Flack, and I'm going to help introduce everyone today. We'll start with Stacy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stacy McCoy. I am the Head Start Collaboration Director. My position sits on the Early Learning team.
Great, thank you. And Nicole?
Good afternoon. I'm Nicole Medor. I'm also on the Early Learning team. I'm the Early Childhood Specialist here at the DOE.
Thank you, Nicole. And Tara?
Good afternoon. My name's Tara Williams. I'm the Associate Director of Early Care and Education, and I work over at the Office of Child and Family Services at Maine DHHS.
Jackie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jackie Hersom. I'm the Assistant 619 Coordinator for CDS.
Welcome. So we have a whole team here today from different agencies to help support a better understanding of collaborating within the mixed delivery system with your early childhood educators. And just a brief description of mixed delivery system is here on this page. Mixed delivery early care and education is the coordinated effort to support early childhood services and programming across a range of settings to help meet the varied needs of children and families. So today we are going to hear about what this looks like in public preschool and licensed childcare programs. We're going to learn a little bit more about the Maine Roads to Quality Professional Development Network, and then how you could connect or engage with your local early care and education programs. And then at the end, we'll talk a little bit about next steps, which will be at our meeting next week. And I will turn it over to Tara.
Thank you so much. So we wanted to have a little bit of time to talk about some different ways of understanding the different types of licensed childcare programs in Maine. And to kind of explain the way the information is broken down on this slide, I'll start at the top. We often call childcare programs childcare centers. In our licensing rules or in our policy documents in Maine, we refer to our childcare programs specifically as childcare facilities or family childcare. And so I'm going to kind of help us navigate this world by breaking it down kind of in smaller and smaller pieces. So one way to start about thinking about licensed childcare is just in those two categories. Is it a family childcare, which we'll talk more about in a moment, that is in someone's home? Or is it a childcare facility that is in some other type of building or space? And that's kind of the two main categories. There are other details you can get by understanding the licensing category or the type of program, in addition to its location or its building space. And those other categories are the number of children that are going to be there being cared for and taught every day, the ages of those children, and the length of the day. And so in our category that we call childcare facilities or childcare centers, we can break that into three subcategories, and they're outlined in the slide here as childcare center, nursery school, and small childcare facility. And you'll see as you look at the details of these types, that's where we start to see a little bit of difference in those three things I just mentioned: how many children, the ages of the children, and the length of the day. A child care center is serving more than 12 children. The ages can be anywhere from 6 weeks old up to 12 years old. And they could be open for any part of the day, meaning they could be a half day, a school day, or what we often refer to as a full day in childcare that are going to potentially open before 8 a.m. and close after 5 p.m. Nursery schools, which there aren't that many of in Maine, is a specific category where they're only going to be open for a half day, 3.5 hours. They're primarily serving preschool age children, and they may be fairly small or they could be a little larger. They have to have 3 or more children in the program. And then a small childcare facility, they are going to be serving anywhere from 3 to 12 children. So it's small like a family childcare, but it's not going to be in that person's home. They're going to be they could be operating out of a house that's not a house where anyone lives, or they could be operating out of some other small building or small facility. But those are kind of the basic pieces. Now, it does get confusing because when you look them up, the names vary. So you could be looking up a program where it is licensed as a childcare, but the name of it is something nursery school. Or it's licensed as a nursery school, but it's called an early care and education center. I can't say much more than apologize for the confusion of our sector, but that's the way it is. And so that's something to just note as you're looking up programs, is that the name doesn't necessarily describe the category or the type of license that they hold. This just goes back many, many years to when at one time most programs would be something daycare, and then at another time they were all something nursery school, and it's evolved over time. But I think an important thing to note about all licensed programs in the state is that they're approved, licensed, and credentialed by our Office of Child and Family Services. They're monitored with annual unannounced visits to check for compliance with health and safety and supporting healthy child development, and that they all must join our state's quality rating system, which is called Rising Stars for Me. And there's also an on-site visit related to verifying the quality rating of the program. So we can go to the next slide and look a little bit more at family childcare. So these are the programs that are going to have two kind of key things. They're in the person's home who's running the program, and they're serving a small group of children, 3 to 12 children. I think one thing that's nice to note about our slide presentation for you is that on the previous slide, the photo was from a Maine child care center. And on this slide, the photo is from a Maine family child care. So you're getting a little peek into a couple of programs that we have. Other things that I mentioned on the previous slide carry forward for family child care: same approval, monitoring, and credentialing, licensing visits, quality rating verification. Again, similar situation to the name may not reflect the type of program. So family child cares are called all different things in the names that they give themselves. And they may call themselves something nursery school or preschool or learning center. And that is the name they've chosen for their program. And then a last thing I'll mention about this type of early care and education program is that a unique thing that we find in family child care that is sometimes in other places in classrooms, but definitely in family childcare, is mixed ages. So the 3 to 12 children that are being served are oftentimes a small group that has infants, toddlers, preschoolers, and after school age kids as well, all together in the same space, and learning and growing and playing together. And so this is something to consider in both the challenges with public pre-K programming, because you are going to be navigating and working with a program that it's not just a dedicated preschool classroom, but also the opportunities there, because there are so many benefits of mixed ages and children really being able to learn and grow together and have the modeling of the peers of older ages, the ability for the older children to show leadership and care for the younger ones as they're learning together. So that's an important thing to note when you're considering any type of collaboration or partnership with a family child care. And I think we're ready for the next slide.
And we will turn it over to Stacy.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of talking a little bit about our Head Start programs in Maine. We have 11 grantees. 9 of them are in community action partnerships and 2 are standalones. We also have 1 tribal program, which does not fall under my particular purview, but I think it's important to note that we also have 1 AIAN tribal program up north. Head Start's been around for 60 years. We're celebrating our 60th anniversary in May. And I know many folks on this call have some sort of a relationship with their local Head Start program, but I think it's important for those who may not to understand a little bit more about the programs. And so we are a unique model, a publicly funded early care and education program. But we are federal to local funding, and every program must do a needs assessment, and they are locally designed to meet those specific needs and those changing needs within their community. And for those that know Head Start, know that we pride ourselves on our comprehensive services, which really focus on early learning, development, education, as well as health and family well-being. We are see our parents and our families as a very integral part of the program and require some family participation. And we just know that that really leads to strong outcomes for our children. And as far as eligibility is concerned, most of the children have family incomes at or below the federal poverty level. They might be receiving TANF, SSI, or supplemental security income. And we also have what we call categorical eligibility. So for those that are receiving SNAP benefits or SNAP Public Assistance Services, they may be foster care families or children, or they may fall under the McKinney-Vento definition of homelessness. Those children are all categorically eligible. And in addition to eligibility requirements, programs also have selection criteria, which does allow programs to select a limited amount of children who may not meet those specific eligibility criteria, but can be selected for the program based on their needs and local needs and program needs as well. And our programs are highly monitored. We are licensed, as Tara mentioned before in a previous slide, that we are licensed childcare facilities. We are also heavily monitored by the Office of Head Start through federal monitoring that happens on a regular basis. And our programs must also meet the National Head Start performance standards. And when we, and we're required to, per licensing, join Rising Stars for Me and all programs because of their high level of quality, enter at a star 5. In regards to things that I think would be really helpful to know, all children are receiving developmental screenings within 45 days of entering the program. So all children are getting that screening. And nearly half of our children with disabilities that are in either our early program or Head Start program have been determined to be eligible actually after they enroll. So we are really kind of meeting those families and helping them to determine those needs at a very early rate. All of our programs are also required to ensure that 10% of their enrollment includes children that are eligible for services under IDEA. This is never an issue for our Head Start programs, but I think it's important to know that it is a requirement, and we are federally monitored for that to make sure that children with disabilities have access to our comprehensive services. And every program has a disability service coordinator or education coordinator. They might be called different things, but they have 2, wonderful, highly experienced program staff that are really designed to support all of that work related to early screening, to our referrals, service coordination, education, as well as transitions within the program from Part C to Part B, or from transitions from our Head Start program into kindergarten. And the other unique thing that doesn't happen in all communities, but in some communities where there is a need, some grantees have had access to what we call our EHS CCP grant, which is our Early Head Start Child Care Partnership Grant. And this allows us to partner with early learning providers. It can be through family childcare providers or childcare centers in local communities to just expand high quality in their area and just integrating our Early Head Start and Head Start comprehensive services and resources into those providers in our community. And I think we're ready for whoever's next.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. Hey, Nicole.
Okay. So another option or setting in our mixed delivery system in our state is public preschool. So many of you know these are programs that are affiliated specifically with a public school district in our state. They're overseen and operated through the responsibility of an SAU. The often will choose to partner, but I'm going to talk about more on that in just a minute. Public pre-K is not a required grade to be offered through our districts, nor is it required for families to register and enroll their children. So for that reason, there are many different offerings from site to site. Some school districts are able to offer full day, full week programming. Other districts offer part day or even part week programming. It's really unique to the community and the needs of the families and the students that live there and access the program. Similarly, some districts are able to offer a public pre-K seat to every eligible 4-year-old in their community, and they don't have to maintain any type of wait list or anything like that. However, our larger communities don't yet have the capacity and space or staff to offer universal enrollment and do have to maintain wait lists. So it really varies across the state, but is a real viable option for families and free of cost, which is also another great benefit of having it in our state. There are many resources available. Our team, the early learning team at the DOE, works to assist school districts in the high quality implementation of their programs, regardless of what that looks like for them. We really operate under Chapter 124, which is our rule overseeing public preschool programming and the standards that must be in place to receive funding through the EPS formula for that program. So it's similar to Chapter 125, which is the standards for K-12. 124 is specific to public pre-K. We've also developed a resource called the Pre-K Guidebook. Oh, and I actually have these in the chat. Let me throw those in there. The pre-K guidebook sort of breaks down Chapter 124 and digs a little deeper into the sections to offer another varied ways to meet those standards. So for example, we might dig a little deeper into curriculum, and we know that you need to have an evidence-based curriculum in place, but what does that look like, and what are some resources to help you determine which curriculum is best for your program? And it much more than that too. It talks about family engagement, student inclusion, and TSS protocols, enrollment protocols, and all the above. So that's available as a resource. We've also created that third link there, the pre-K program self-assessment tool, which is meant to help guide conversations, whether you're years into offering public pre-K or brand new and just starting. The self-assessment tool can really help guide your conversations for each section of 124 in the guidebook, and thinking about what are you able to offer, and where does that fall in terms of quality, right? Is there room to grow over time? Is there something to consider that you haven't thought of yet that might make sense for your program? So that is also just a resource for folks to access. We do make it a requirement that all of the public preschool staff, so lead teachers and ed techs, join the Maine Roads to Quality registry. We work really closely with our colleagues over at Maine Roads to Quality on a number of projects, and it's a real benefit for teachers to join the registry. There's no cost, and it does give us some really great data of our early childhood staff, specifically those that are working in our public school programs, and to really just have a better understanding and idea of the professional development that they've had, their higher education needs, etc. So we do make that a requirement under 124 and do check in on that periodically. So many of our programs, as I mentioned, they don't have the space or the staff to offer more classrooms when there may be a need in their community for it. So that's a great opportunity to consider partnerships with the family child cares or licensed child care centers that Tara was talking about earlier. And we do have my colleague, Michelle Belanger, who's on the call today too. Her email's there. She's our public pre-K partnership specialist. And she works very closely with districts in thinking about partnerships in their communities and how to navigate that and how to make that a successful option for expanding or starting new programs that are affiliated with the school, but sort of live out in the community and work with very closely the community-based partners to provide that free public pre-K programming. Majority of our partnerships are with a local Head Start program, but we have many and continue to grow that partner with family child cares as well as licensed centers and YMCAs and what have you in their communities as well. So Michelle is a really great resource on our team. So definitely reach out to her if you have been considering or have any more specific questions around those partnerships. And one last thing just to make note of, we've recognized over the last few years as public pre-K has expanded throughout the state, that there's some learning gaps and some lack of understanding or lack of comfort even, specifically with our administrators in taking on such a young group of students. 4-year-olds are young students. So we've created, again, in partnership with Maine Roads to Quality, a professional development opportunity. It's called Leading Early Learning, and it's really geared towards administrators that are working in our public school systems that are taking on 4-year-olds. So it's a 6-month cohort that we just finished up one a couple weeks ago now, and are getting ready to kick off the next cohort. So information on that will be coming out in the coming weeks through the newsroom. It's largely virtual based and online week by week modules of learning specific topics related to high quality early learning. But there are opportunities to come together in person for a kickoff and a wrap up end of cohort event. And then there's also virtual PLCs scattered throughout as well. So we've been able to move a number of administrators through the last 4 cohorts, and it's been very successful. So we're excited to get the information out for the next cohort.
Great. Thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome.
I think we're back to Tara.
All right. So you've heard us mention a few times in this presentation, and I think in your previous cohort 1 trainings, Maine Roads to Quality. So we wanted to highlight a couple key things about this professional development network in Maine. You may have heard before that they offer trainings. They're kind of the home of professional development for those who work in childcare, often Head Start, really in the early childhood community-based spaces in Maine. They manage 2 databases of information for our state. And one of those is a quality rating and improvement system called Rising Stars for Me. And the other is our workforce registry. We often call the Maine Roads Registry or MRTQ Registry. And I think an important way to kind of distinguish between the 2 is that Rising Stars for Me is all about assessing the overall program and the quality of the program. And the registry is about individuals and their own career path and kind of level of credentialing and education and experience. We've put a couple of links for when you get this slideshow to look a little bit more at the quality rating standards for the program if you are interested and you haven't done so before. And I'll highlight one part of that in a moment when I share more of some of the resources that we have. So I'll just note, I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. But another thing I realized that we have and could probably share out is, if we haven't done it before, we have a graphic that shows the registry in a nice kind of blue and yellow 1-pager that helps to see how much credentialing or experience someone has had, and then where they fall as an individual at the registry, in addition to where a program falls in their star rating. So always happy to share more about that, but really wanted to make sure today that we just kind of underlined the key thing is knowing that we have these in Maine, knowing that they're a source of information for you about the childcare and early learning programs in your community, and that they'll give you some good information about the facilities and family childcare and the individuals who work in them. And ready for the next slide. And so we have some resources linked here for you, and also some suggested next steps to connect with the local programs in your community. There's a resource in Maine called Childcare Choices that really helps you to look up the childcare and early learning programs, or the early care and education programs in your area. We also have some links to information that, and I'll show you the actual places where you can find them on the online, to learn more about how to connect with each Head Start agency in the state, and how to connect with a group of consultants that we have at Maine Roads to Quality called ECE Program Quality Specialists. These are two key groups of people we want you to know about, because they are connected in their region of Maine to the childcare and Head Start programs in that area. They're often convening and facilitating professional learning communities and communities of practice. And so they're a great kind of warm handoff or way in to either build relationships or strengthen the relationships that you may have already started with programs in your area. And then, of course, also looking to connect with your local CDS support and service hub. And if you haven't done so before, we highly recommend hosting or joining a meeting for all of the programs in your catchment area, to really start to think about ways to collaborate or to grow on ways you may have already collaborated. So I'm going to share my screen now, if that works okay, Sandy, and I'll show you a few resources. Wonderful. Okay. So first I wanted to point out, and you should be seeing a screen that says Childcare Choices. Is that coming up? Great. That we mentioned that one of the resources that we have in this state is this Childcare Choices site. It is built overall as a source of information for parents to not only find childcare, but to find information. So you note when you look at the top, it has more than searching for childcare. Parents and anyone in the public can look up more information about Rising Stars for Me, about childcare licensing. It says over on the top right, the affordability program, that's our childcare subsidy program in Maine. So there's all those different resources there, but we'll look specifically, if you click on search for childcare, it opens up to this page. And there's 3 different ways to search here. You can search by city. I was actually just thinking recently we should figure out a way to search by school district, but we don't have that yet. So since we don't, I would recommend using the address of your school district. If you're in just one town or city, you can put that in, it's easy, but I know many of you serve multiple towns. And so you could use this feature where you put the address of one of your school buildings, and then you can click on within, and you could go out to 5 miles, 10 miles, 20 miles, and use that as kind of a proxy to try to search for your catchment area of your school district. Either one may work for you. I recommend not searching by type of provider, because you really are going to want to see everyone who's in your area, unless you're really trying to look up a specific program. And when you do that, you're going to find a list, and I'm going to show you by doing a search for Cumberland. It's the town that I live in, so we'll do that to start. When I look up the town that I live in, I find 5 childcare programs in my town. It shows you on a map, and it shows you a little graphic with the star. And I can see that all 5 of them are star 2s, which means they're licensed, but they have not yet shown evidence that they've met any star 3, 4, or 5 criteria. And when you scroll down, you get more information about them. You can look up licensing details, how long they've been licensed, and any other information about their monitoring or licensing. One feature I would ignore because it is not kept well up to date is how many openings they have for infants, toddlers, preschoolers, or school age. It's a newer feature that we've added, and it's really not implemented yet in a way that will actually show you the number of openings. So you might call up Storytime Learning Center and find out that they actually have 10 openings or 3 openings. Another thing I would point out is that when you find a family childcare, it's always listed in this database by the name of the owner of the family childcare. What you don't find out is the actual name of their program. So if they're called, Art Play or Early Learning Center, that's not listed. You can find it if you click on licensing details. The other thing I would note is that there may be information that you would like to know about this program that you can't find here, and you wouldn't be able to find unless you were able to, if you called them, emailed them, set up a meeting, or sometimes even looked up their program's website. I did that here. I was looking through today, and I think Willow School is one of the newer programs in the town that I live. And I Googled it and found their webpage. And there's just some interesting and beautiful things about this program that actually for me made me wonder, why have they not submitted more evidence? I bet they meet a higher quality rating. So this could be an interesting one for a school district to reach out and talk to them, because when I click on their classrooms, I see that they are using Montessori-based programming. They're a nature-based program. There's just a lot more information here than we can get from Child Care Choices. And there's programs out there that like this that could be a potential preschool partner or collaborator if they were to work on submitting evidence of meeting higher standards. So in addition to that, I'll just point out one other quick thing while we're here. When we were looking at the public preschool slide, one of the resources available is the public, I'm going to forget the name of it, pre-K program self-assessment tool. There's sometimes things that you can find that are aligned or connected between the way that we look at public pre-K in our school districts and the way that we look at infant, toddler, and preschool programming in our licensed childcares. And this is an example. I opened up the facilities, childcare facilities star rating document that you'll have linked that you can go to. And if I go over to page 6 here, this is called Standard 2 Program Evaluation. And what I can see here is that, at Star 2, that's a licensed program. They don't have to meet additional standards. But when you get to a Star 3, they do have to do their own annual self-assessment and program evaluation. They need to do staff and family surveys. They need to complete an inclusive practices checklist, and they need to write a continuous quality improvement plan based on these things. And then there's additional requirements at Star 4 and then Star 5. So I thought that's something interesting to note, because as you get to know your programs, you'll probably also start to learn about some things that you do differently and some things that you do similarly based on the different criteria that folks need to meet. So I will stop sharing there, and I will stick into the chat a couple of links that might be helpful for the part that I mentioned about connecting with the ECE program quality specialists and Head Starts, because we've got some good contact information there, and turn it back over to you, Sandy.
Great, thank you. I will share my screen again. And next up is Jackie.
Thanks, Sandy. So having held the responsibility of FAPE for as long as we have at CDS, we have been fortunate enough to have some form of partnership with all of the wonderful programs that were just talked about. And what I wanted to focus on today for you were really the ones that we have with our private partners and the community programs that we partner with. And there's 2 programs currently, private programs, two types of programming, I should say, that we approve, which is the first step in the partnership with CDS. And one is the ECETA, which is our classrooms in our private classrooms that have 50% or less of the children enrolled in the program have an active IEP. And basically how that works is they would submit their application to us. It's a very simple form. It asks them about their programming, and then they also have to send us correlating documents such as their QRIS rating, a description of their inclusion practices. We ask them about the curriculum and their behavior policies, and then we keep all of that in a file. And if they are approved, we also do a visit to verify that they are a high quality program, that everything aligns with what they sent us. And then they are sent to contracting, which is the second step in partnering with CDS. And a contract is devised that meets the unique programming needs of the children in that setting and the program. We also partner with special education programs, which is 50% or more children enrolled have active IEPs. And their process looks a little bit different, as just because we have a little bit more expectations as far as credentials. And the contract would look a lot different. But the partnership is basically the same, except for ECETAs, CDS, just like our partnerships with the SAUs, we send our staff typically to their settings to provide services. And with special education programs, typically they provide the staff and the services within their setting. But the most important piece, the third step in partnering, is that ongoing collaboration with our sites. And I encourage SAUs to reach out to their local site directors at their local CDS sites to ask them about the programs that they work with, and if they have recommendations for high quality programs that you could partner with, because it's so beneficial, and we really value those partnerships ourselves.
Thank you, Jackie. So that is the end of our presentation. Stop sharing. So were there any questions in the chat or any questions from anyone here?
Looks like there are none.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on in the agenda to reminders. So next week we are combining our cohort meetings into one meeting. So we're going to have both cohort 1 and cohort 2 on the 16th at 3 o'clock, because the following week is school vacation, and I am sure that nobody would be available to participate in a cohort meeting. So next Wednesday, April 16th, both cohort 1 and cohort 2 are invited to join us for a presentation. The topic will be the next step in this series, which is developing agreements with your local partners in your mixed delivery system. So, and then we have another reminder with Erin.
Hi, everybody.
And Erin, your speaker. Thank you. Microphone.
Thank you for always noticing when my speaker is not near my mouth. I just wanted to remind folks that and we're probably going to be, I'm thinking about the fact that we had at one point provided you a decisions sheet in terms of when we were writing things down that were kind of solidified in our learning in this as we grow together. But I just wanted to remind everybody in that C to B transition, that really is an initial eligibility IEP meeting on the side of Part B. And as such, the team members required for that meeting are the team members required in Part B. So general education teacher, is required in that meeting. And that has obviously been for CDS very challenging to do because we don't have general education teachers. So that's kind of it's not how CDS has been typically operating, but we would like that to obviously be in compliance with federal law around and state law around the required team members. So that's just my reminder, and I'm probably going to provide it in writing again because there's lots of details about the C to B transition that we have to remember.
Great. Thank you, Erin. Any questions for Erin or anyone here today? Oh, well, if not, have a great afternoon and evening. Thank you for coming.